As pro-Palestinian protests spring up on college campuses across the nation, what does history teach us about the track record of student activism? Reporter Hilary Burns spoke with those who lived it in generations past to see how it all might play out this time. Hilary, currently campus protests are springing up all over the country, but for your article, you looked at protests from decades past on campuses. What did you find?
Yeah, so I spoke with several historians who said that student protests have made a difference in the past, dating back well into the early 20th century. We saw students at historically black colleges pushing for better conditions. We saw students in the 1930s signing pledges that they would not participate in wars. And of course, in the 1960s and 70s, we saw what has become like the modern campus radical and people protesting the war in Vietnam and also for civil rights. So students are likely to participate in these protests, one, because they have more time on their hands, their schedules are more flexible, but also they're away from home, maybe for the first time, in an environment that encourages inquiry and challenging the status quo. So the professors I spoke with said, this is common. It's normal for students to want to change the world while they're in college.
Along with professors, Hilary, you spoke with participants, students who had actually participated in protests past. One such person was at Dartmouth in the 80s. What was their story?
Yes, so Pamela Metzger, who's now a law professor, was a student at Dartmouth protesting the apartheid rule in South Africa. So she and her peers at Dartmouth built these cardboard and wood scrap structures they called shanty towns, which popped up on other colleges around the country at the time, to make a statement and call on the college to divest from South Africa investments and companies. So she told me her story of, for several months, these students slept in these structures in the winter in Dartmouth. It was really cold, and they held learning sessions and communications. She said it was a really nice community, and those structures were destroyed by other conservative students on campus who came out in the middle of the night with sledgehammers, and that prompted national media attention. And this woman, Pamela Metzger, who I spoke with, said that was a turning point, and that helped ignite the divest movement, and it ultimately made a difference.
Along with Pamela, you spoke to someone a little closer to home that was at Tufts University. What happened there?
Yes, so Larry Ladd is now a higher education consultant. He was a student at UMass Amherst protesting the Vietnam War, and he acted as a negotiator between students who were taking over buildings and the administrators to work out solutions without police interference. And then later, he was an administrator at Tufts who had to climb through a window to get into his office to make payroll because students had overtaken the building to protest a tenure decision they didn't agree with. So he has seen both sides of student protests, and he says that he likes the quote that they were young and foolish, but they were right.
Protests of the past were very effective in changing people's opinions of what was going on. Will we see something like that happen with these current protests and the conflict going on in Gaza now?
Yeah, it's a good question. The historians I spoke with said it's hard to tell in the moment whether a movement is going to make a difference and ignite real change. But if the past is any indication, student protesters have a history of changing public perception. And when we see police interference and use of force on peaceful protests, that has a track record of changing public perception.
Hilary, you have been covering student reaction to the war in Gaza for months. We will see you back again, I am sure. Thank you for joining us on Boston Globe Today.
Thank you for having me.
For daily access to Boston Globe Today, all segments and episodes are available on demand in the Boston Globe app by clicking Watch.